In Ukraine's Luhansk region, new images show the aftermath of an explosion at the headquarters of a Russian mercenary group, the Wagner Group, which has been accused of war crimes, had been using a hotel as its base in Russian-occupied territory. That hotel, now a crater, in Russia blaming Ukraine for the blast. Dramatic new images also coming out of Melitopol. Ukraine is fighting to gain back that city from Russia, which it captured back in March. Ukrainian forces have launched missiles in that area. Former officials there says Russia turned the city into one giant military base. Its troops taking over homes and schools. And joining me now to talk about this is the former commanding general of all U.S. Army forces in Europe, retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. General, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. What's your reaction to Ukraine launching this missile attack on this Russian-occupied city, and also the news that there's been this explosion at the headquarters of the Wagner Group, the Russian state-controlled mercenary group, notorious group. Is this the start of a new counteroffensive? What do you think?
Hey, Jim, thanks for the privilege. Well, first of all, the Russians must be very concerned that the Ukrainians continue to demonstrate creativity and innovative ways with technology to reach further and further to hit Russian targets. So that's the Ukrainians are obviously not sitting around waiting on the United States to provide everything that's needed. That's number one. Number two, I don't know that this is the start of a new counteroffensive. I think actually we're in the phase of what we would call condition setting, where the Ukrainian General Staff is going to continue to go after logistics and continue to go after command and control, so that in another month or 2 months, they'll be able to launch a successful next phase of their counteroffensive. So Melitopol sits right on one of the only two landlines of communication that go into Crimea. So hitting Melitopol will disrupt the ability of Russian forces to reinforce Crimea.
And why go after the Wagner Group?
Well, the Wagner Group, of course, has a certain sort of notorious cachet already. They're the ones that are continuing to pound away at Ukrainian defenses around Bakhmut. And so I think there is not only an operational benefit to knock out the headquarters of Wagner, if that's what they're trying to do, but also a symbolic way to hit back against forces that have caused a lot of damage and have been particularly brutal. So to step back from it, though, this is all about the Ukrainian General Staff going after headquarters and going after logistics, which I think are precursors, or what we call setting the conditions for the decisive phase of the campaign, which will be the liberation of Crimea.
And let me ask you this. For the second time this week, Vladimir Putin floated the possibility that Russia may formally change its military doctrine of not being the first to use a nuclear weapon during a conflict. Do you think that's just a bluff? You raised the prospect there of the Ukrainians being able to retake Crimea. Might that be a tipping point for Putin, where he just gets so desperate that he tries to use something like that?
Well, of course, I would take it seriously. Anytime the Russians talk about nuclear weapons, they have thousands of nuclear weapons. I think Secretary Austin recently said it looks like they're trying to expand their inventory of nuclear weapons. But I also think it's extremely unlikely that they would actually use them. I think the Russian General Staff and the Kremlin absolutely believe President Biden when he said that there would be catastrophic consequences. So there is no battlefield advantage for Russia to use it, and the price that they would pay would be, I think, too much for them. However, by bringing things up like this, it gets it back into our mind. I mean, we had actually gone several weeks without too much reporting about the possibility of a nuclear strike. So this gets it back in people's minds as we enter this tough, cold winter. And again, as you know, that the Russian objective is to drag this out as long as they can in hopes that we'll lose the will to continue supporting Ukraine. So I think that's what this is really about.
And are there additional steps the Biden administration should be considering at this point to turn the tide against Russia? I mean, the Ukrainians really seem to have the Russians back on their heels. I mean, would you advise the Biden administration to kind of push this a little harder to knock the Russians all the way on their backs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the administration, which has done a very good job on so many aspects of this entire conflict, we still are self-deterring ourselves out of an overestimation of what Russia might do to escalate. I actually think Russians don't have anything else with which they could escalate other than to continue threatening nuclear conflict. Now, this is not happening in a vacuum, and I wouldn't claim to know everything. There were conversations with China, for example, that may be causing us to limit what we're doing. But Ukraine has achieved irreversible momentum. There's no going back. I believe that they are going to liberate Crimea by the end of next summer. This could happen a lot faster if the administration and other Western allies would provide the additional things that Ukraine needs. And also, it would save a lot more Ukrainian lives if we could stop the bombing of so many Ukrainian cities sooner.
All right. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, we'll catch up with you again. We'll see about that prediction of yours about Crimea. That would be remarkable. But appreciate your time once again. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the privilege, Jim.
All right. Thank you.